Hi, friends. This is your pal Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about the relationship between the player and the player character, and how it's changed since the emotional revolution. My apologies. This is in a playlist. If you don't know what the term emotional revolution is, you don't have any capacity to understand what I'm about to talk about. So you have to watch the full playlist. Just link below. You'll see the full playlist, and that'll get you started. Thank you. All right. So we're in the emotional revolution. B. Dave Walters has changed Dungeons and Dragons forever, in my humble opinion. Once we realize that the player character is an emotional vessel and an emotional shield, and that the player character sheet is an emotional talisman, it it thoroughly answers the question on whether backup characters are appropriate. Okay, so some dungeon masters have used backup characters in the last 50 years of Dungeons and Dragons, and that's okay. And the reason it's okay that they used them before, it's not okay to use them anymore, and I'm going to explain why. The reason the first 50 years of Dungeons and Dragons was filled with tons of stuff we did wrong. Just almost everything we did was wrong. Um, just just almost an innumerable number of things we got wrong. Okay. Now the next 50 years is us correcting those and playing Dungeons and Dragons right. Okay. And so there's been this question on whether it was appropriate to use backup characters. Before the emotional revolution, I thought it was massively wrong. Now I know it's wrong, in my humble opinion. Okay. And I'm going to try to convince you as well. Okay. So my issue was, one, if you tell somebody to have a backup character, you're telling them that both of the characters are worthless. And the reason why is any character worth its salt, the player, when that character dies, should be sad. And I mean very sad, like sorrowful, right? And the reason why is they should have been invested in that character. There should have been some meaning in that character. No one that we ever encounter when they die do we are like, oh, my friend died. Here's my backup friend, right? And if you've used friends like that, you're a horrible person. And this is what I'm saying now. If you use backup characters, you are a horrible dungeon master. It was a debate before we knew that a player character's actual structure was as um was as a emotional vessel and an emotional shield, right? Now that we know that player characters are carrying part of emotions so that we don't get blasted with them full without filter, that's we owe these player characters, right? Because they're giving us a gift that's incredible, and they're giving us an ability that is, in my opinion, superhuman, right? Like the ability to choose which emotions we feel at which intensities, at which times, and at which frequencies. Humans don't get to do that, but Dungeons and Dragons players do. Dragon Masters do. That's incredible. That's incredible, right? So once you realize that the player character is an emotional vessel and an emotional shield, and that you as the player are sharing emotion with them, it becomes utterly disgusting to keep a backup character. When a player character dies, you should get up from the table, and you should not play the rest of that session and have at least that time to recover, right? You might not come back for weeks or months, right? Because of the emotional impact of losing a Dungeons and Dragons character, right? And 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 the issue here is, to me, this is absolutely rock solid evidence that ever using a backup character was ever appropriate. It is not. And so what is the takeaways? One, if you're a dungeon master, do not ever, ever, ever ask for a backup character. And the reason why is it's telling somebody the first character you made didn't matter, and the second one won't either. And the only reason you have those two characters is because I insist that everyone at the table always have the same experience. They have to have fun. There's no room for anything else at the table. Now, we know that that is rank amateur dungeon mastering at this point. Anybody who's saying that Dungeons and Dragons, the purpose of Dungeons and Dragons is fun and to, like That's the purpose of and that's the only experience we can have at the table. Rank amateur Dungeon Master. Complete ridiculousness, right? And the reason we know this is B. Dave Walters, right? Saying, my goal is to evoke emotions and to create catharsis. That's astounding. That is absolutely, shockingly astounding, in my humble opinion. Every single word you heard in this video was my humble opinion. Absolutely nothing more and absolutely nothing less. The important part is when I get to hear your humble opinion. When you get in the comments and send your traffic. Please consider subscribing and have a fetch millennium.